Workers in strangers' homes, what is the weirdest thing you've seen? I'm an insurance adjuster. I had to present an estimate to both the homeowner and a life-size mannequin that she had seated at the table that she told me to address as Marie. While I was explaining the repair process, she started to paint Marie's nails. Ha 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 ha, that may have been my aunt. She's a stylist, and got a life-size mannequin for Christmas one year. She dresses it up and puts wigs on it and paints its nails, not because she thinks it's a living being, but because she tries new styles and stuff on it. She's pretty quirky and eccentric and gave it a name, and likes to mess with new people who come to her house by acting like it's her friend. Former satellite install tech here. I have many to add to this, but the best was a family that had a Jaguar in the driveway, getting 3 HD DVR boxes, international dish with channels. They had no floor. I had to step over the piping and framing on the dirt floor to get from room to room. It was a rotten away wood floor. They were nice as hell. Perfect. I've always wanted a Jaguar. All I have to do is stop wasting my money on these damn floors. Work as a low-voltage security installer, home security and small business and the like. I'm like 99% sure this one old lady we installed for was a Nazi. She had a very large amount of pro-Nazi World War II books and items, hardcore German accent, 2 perfectly trained German shepherds. And a photo of her in what looked to be late teens, early 20s with a goddamn iron cross around her neck. Nicest lady in the world, and outside of visiting her home, you wouldn't have ever known. Her husband, she married recently, within 5 to 7 years ago, is like this hardcore full-blooded American guy, the kind who only buys made-in-America items and whatnot. I used to clean houses for a living, I still do, but only a couple since I have 2 other jobs. I cleaned an old lady's house once, I mean grandmotherly, baking cookies for neighborhood children-looking lady who had a bunch of sex toys in her dishwasher. Went to an apartment to repair AC, dude answers the door obviously high as shit, room smells like weed. He says wait a sec, and closes the door for a minute. Lets me in and I see a bowl of weed on the table. He notices I've seen it, tries to distract me and hides it. As I'm working, see the couch beside me has one side pulled slightly away from the wall. Look behind and see a massive bong not so discreetly hidden. I started laughing quietly as the stoner looked amazed that I had busted his unfindable hiding spot. He then rushes over and pulls the "hey, where did this come from, must be my roommates." Tried real hard to contain laughter for the rest of the job. Plumber here. I was in an apartment doing a recipe in the bathroom. The tenant had a little dog that came over to say hi and then took a shit on the carpet. I went into the living room to let the tenant know and walked in on 2 dudes doing the nasty in the middle of the floor. Keep in mind, they were doing this knowing that there were 2 plumbers in their suite working. Funny thing is, they were a little peeved at me for interrupting. I went back and told my buddy to stay out of the living room. I didn't tell him why because I knew he would walk and we had the water to the building shut off until we finished our work. I fix appliances. Once I was called out to fix a washer that was in their basement. When I got there, the entire basement was covered in dog crap and urine. They had a couple dogs and just let them go down there, never cleaned up. I have never been so glad I can't smell. I have never been so glad I can't smell. Did your dad take your nose as a kid and never give it back? I don't work in other people's houses, but this one time an electrician came to fix something in my basement. My dad thought I was coming up the stairs, so as a joke, he shut the door and held it closed. It turns out it was the electrician coming up the stairs. Confused, the electrician says, "I need to come up," and my dad replies with, "Why?" It was another 5 or 10 seconds before my dad realized what he had done. This actually happened in my own home. I was 16 and my parents had not long separated and one of our toilets got badly clogged. With dad not being around, my mum had to call a plumber. I was hanging around while he worked. He found about 50 crumpled up photos of my dad, clogging it up. With scorch marks. Apparently my mum tried to burn them and panicked and chucked them in the nearest water receptacle. To this day, I question her logic, but she was devastated and not sleeping, so I kind of understand. Plumber was not amused. Bet he still tells stories about the crazy divorcee. Edit, punctuation, commas save lives. I used to work for a company that did valuations on vehicles for insurance purposes. On occasion, we would have to go to a client's house to see the car, take pics, etc. One afternoon, two of us get sent out to this lady's house to collect information on her rare Mercedes convertible. When we arrive, she invites us in and tells us that the car is in the garage. She is leading us through the house towards the garage, and as we walk through a room, there is a guy standing in the corner of the room wearing only a jock strap, and he has a ball gag in his mouth. As if it is a normal situation, she just says, "That's Dave, never mind him. He won't bother you." Edited to fix a couple words. I used to be a delivery boy at an appliance store, so this is just one of my stories. Me and a coworker are delivering a washer and dryer to a really trashy trailer park, and the guy is outside wearing only underwear and drinking a beer. We get the washer and dryer out of the truck and into his extremely tight doorways until we realize the laundry room doorway isn't big enough. Naked redneck grabs an axe and completely destroys the doorway so the washer and dryer would fit. I install security and home automation systems around some pretty bad areas. This summer, while working in St. Louis, the first was helping this little old black lady set up her online account. She took me into her bedroom so I could access her desktop, and I shit you not, she had a samurai sword between her bed and nightstand. I used to work in in-home sales. On one appointment, a guy's house was disgusting gross. We saw a lot of dirty houses, this one stood alone. In the middle of us talking, he excused himself to go use the bathroom, which he proceeded to do in a bucket in his living room. Went to someone's house to fix their PC. I got there, and they showed me the PC and what the problem was, then went and sat outside. Understandable if it was a nice day and sitting out weather. It wasn't. It was like they didn't want to be in their house when I was there. As once I'd done the job, they came back in. I left, and then I was sat in the car for 5 minutes answering an email, and they didn't come back outside again. I can respect that. I like it when customers leave the premise on a house call or go to another room so they aren't watching over you all the time. I get paid by the hour, so maybe more relevant for my line of work. I once installed a copy machine in a bathroom under a shower head. The previous owner was handicapped and had a walk-in bathroom off the kitchen. So this customer decided to turn that space into an office to run his credit card scam out of. So he had me hook the copier up under the shower head where no one was sitting. Edit gave reason. Not really going on, but rather something I saw. I cleaned homes with my mother-in-law for a while last year, and while I was cleaning in a home office, I saw a check on the desk for $40,000 that said poker winnings in the memo line. I would have thought it was a joke, but then I noticed that it was post-dated for like 1 month in the future, making it seem more credible. Like the person actually needed to get their funds in order to be able to pay out. Been waiting for this. Was a laborer on a construction crew in high school. One day my boss and I had to install a wall right down the center of a couple's house. She had caught him cheating, but he refused to move out, so the compromise was to literally cut the house in half. The worst part was they were both there talking to us but refused to acknowledge each other's presence. Most awkward work day I may have ever had. Electrician here. When I was an apprentice, I worked in an old lady's house who rescued parrots. Most of them had no feathers at all due to stress. So it was like working in a room full of live pieces of chicken that could swear at you. I used to deliver drugs, from a pharmacy, to people unable or unwilling to leave their homes. One address put my delivery between two houses. No house. Just a small patch of tall grass and sunflowers with what appeared to be smoke rising up behind. I armed over the flowers and saw a man in a reclining beach chair, roasting bacon on a skewer over a fire. He saw me and then said, "Those my meds?" I handed them over, sat in my truck, and just wondered what the hell. I was called on site to repair someone's computer that wouldn't connect to the internet. Upon arriving, I was led to the master bedroom where a camera was set up, not a typical webcam, but a high-end one on a tripod, aimed at the bed. Once I ascertained that the issue was that they had a virus that hijacked the browser proxy setting, I cleaned it all up and launched the browser to ensure they could again get online. Homepage is a couple swapping site. He sat with me the whole time and made no comment or apology about what I was seeing. I used to work for my father as a painter. One day, I had a job for a man no different to any other customer, as he was building a house and I was painting it. Normal customer didn't pay very much attention to him. I came back a couple say later and was instead greeted by a female, completely different. Turns out he had gotten a sex change in the days I had been gone. Her and her partner were really nice the whole time I worked there, but it was still quite the shock as I had been told nothing about it by my father. I was doing an upgrade to the main electrical service and the tenants apparently had no idea we were coming. The panel in the house was located in this guy's bedroom. I guess the guy forgot, but he had a giant blue dildo just suction cupped to his mini fridge. Best part was when I went outside to get some tools out of the van and tell my coworker about the dildo. He must have hid it because it was gone when I came back, and the journeyman I was working with never saw it and didn't believe me. When teaching a piano lesson in a student's living room, his older brother and his brother's girlfriend in the bedroom above us was keeping time, thumping in the bed in perfect sync with the music. It helped that they were both college music majors at the time. Their sex rhythms matched the andante, adagio, and allegro of our sonata perfectly. We all lost it when they finally came down the stairs, even though everyone tried hard to keep a straight face. My dad installs curtains. Once house was a real mess. Just generally untidy. But in the bedroom, the bed was covered in cabbages and sex toys. The sex toys didn't bother him, but the cabbages confuse him to this day. I used to work as a fire safety technician. One time I was having a look at someone's smoke alarm because they complained it was beeping every now and then. Get inside and there were 50 birds flying freely around the apartment, all squawking, and newspaper all over the floor, so they didn't mess it up. Had no idea how they ever heard the snow alarm beeping. My fiancé cleans houses. He's found odd things like sex dungeons, but his co-workers have him beat. They moved a floor lamp to vacuum, and a big bag of cocaine fell out of it. They called their manager to ask what to do, and he told them to just vacuum it up. When the homeowner realized what happened, he called the manager and threatened to call the cops on them. The manager told him to go ahead and do that. The weirdest thing I've seen is a building with all the storm windows on the inside, in front of the actual windows. Historical buildings don't allow for visual changes to the exterior, so someone decided this was the solution. Well, seems no one's met some hoarders, or people that don't have much space or can pay for space, but I can tell you I've been in apartments where rent is $5,000 a month, all over Manhattan, and I always get confused as I'm entering with my toolbox trying to push the door open, but it only opens about 30 degrees, and I then look up into the rest of the apartment and all you see is a tiny path that splits and leads into each room. I have 4 different apartments that are a really vivid memory, especially the $4,500 per month studio in Midtown 2 blocks from Central Park in one of the classier buildings in Manhattan. My God, I just wanted to get out. Installed a security camera system in an extremely upscale hotel in San Francisco. The new IP-based cameras were all over the property in the usual places. IT director had me install one camera over the buffet area of the restaurant, specifically for watching when his favorite dishes were brought out. Directors ate for free, so he was short a time when he went to eat that his fave food was there. I thought it was hilarious, albeit pushing your power a little. Ha 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 ha, that may have been my aunt. She's a stylist, and got a life-size mannequin for Christmas one year. She dresses it up and puts wigs on it and paints its nails, not because she thinks it's a living being, but because she tries new styles and stuff on it. She's pretty quirky and eccentric and gave it a name, and likes to mess with new people who come to her house by acting like it's her friend. My son had a life-sized male mannequin a few years ago that he bought for a photo shoot. He thought he was clever and sat that stupid thing at my dining room table, and when I walked out one morning to make coffee it scared the daylights out of me. I got my son back though. While he was gone I sat the mannequin in his computer chair facing away from the door and put one of my son's hats on it. When I heard my son yell, "Holy FUCK!" I knew I had got him good. LOL. Damn, my parents are like this. 2 BMWs, big TV, swimming pool, grand piano, and no floor. They had a water leak that rotted a bit of it away, so they just removed it. That was about 5 years ago, and still no floor. I mean shit, I don't have much, Mom, but I've got a damn floor. Electrician. Been there, bro. A normal person doesn't need 2150 WMH lights in his 30 by 80 shop, along with 8 for fluorescence. He was super nice and paid in cash though. People can just not believe you when you tell them that the output on something is way too high. He wanted to be able to adjust the height of the lights himself, so we added chains and extra cord. That was the telling part before he began plumbing the irrigation. He still stuck to the mechanic's story though. He needs to, in case you're ever questioned by the police. If the police ask you, did you see any drugs, or did he tell you it was a grow operation, you can honestly say no. You're not a field tech until you've had to ignore someone's grow op. I've been in several homes in my profession which had obvious grow rooms. Might I add, if your internet guy can tell that you're running a grow op, you're doing it wrong. My boyfriend works in a professional place with adults cleaning. He's had to clean shit on the floors and walls on multiple occasions. And tampons on the floor. It baffles me by how disgusting people can be. My roommate and I asked our cable guy if he was cool with it. He said he can't do it on the job, but it was our house and we could do what we want. He went out to get something from the van and then said it smells like Christmas in here when he returned. He proceeded to give us way more channels than we paid for. Was questioning why you needed to move a dresser to install Windows before realizing you probably meant the wall ones, not the software. Edit, so proud my highest rated comment demonstrates Windows software, actual Windows in my home. Having spent time in Malawi 5 years ago and indeed visiting a children's hospital just outside Lilongwe, which was vastly underfunded and under-equipped, your story saddens and angers me in equal measure. While I was doing Kindle support, I had a woman rant to me for about 2 hours about how the government was after her. 20 minutes in I just started egging her on. 40 minutes in my entire row had stopped taking calls and were just listening to mine. I did not get hired full-time. I do insurance adjusting, and these are honestly the people that scare me most. I know a lot of people always talk about the 250 pounds thugged out dude, but the squirrely conspiracy people honestly have made me most afraid they were about to snap. When I arrived, she made me lay on the living room floor and pretend to be dead, while the dog sniffed me and fully soaked in my existence. The correct response to that would have been, "Lady, please lock away your pet for the duration of my visit." I can respect that. I like it when customers leave the premise on a house call or go to another room so they aren't watching over you all the time. I get paid by the hour, so maybe more relevant for my line of work. My son had a life-sized male mannequin a few years ago that he bought for a photo shoot. He thought he was clever and sat that stupid thing at my dining room table, and when I walked out one morning to make coffee it scared the daylights out of me. I got my son back though. While he was gone I sat the mannequin in his computer chair facing away from the door and put one of my son's hats on it. When I heard my son yell, "Holy fuck," I knew I had got him good. LOL. I'm not sure that the appropriate response to seeing, presumably, lesbians is, "Oh, they must want my penis." That's what happens in the porn I watch. Lesbians don't like penis, that's kind of entirely the point. I'm sure it's standard practice amongst lesbians to grope each other and make out right in front of a utility guy. I was drunk at a party once and had a girl say to me I would leave if I had someone to take me home. To which I replied, "Don't worry, you'll find someone." She looked confused and I felt stupid the next day. LOL, your dad's never seen NYC sewer rats, has he? But yeah, it's a pain to have to unclog a toilet because ladies flushed their tampons down the toilet instead of them wrapping it in TP and throwing it in the garbage. I have flushed tampons my whole life. Myself, my mother, and my sister were all flushing tampons at the same time for over 7 years. Nothing bad ever happened. I flushed maybe 3 at my boyfriend's house and completely fucked up their plumbing. The plumber pulled them all out with a pipe snake while my boyfriend was standing next to him. I flushed them. I had never been taught differently. But to be fair, I was never taught about it at all. I learned what to do from the box. I learned maybe 3 months ago that I am not supposed to. I'm 23. I'm trying to change the habit. But it's very difficult. Do men know what kind of ninja skills are required to cleanly pull a blood-soaked cotton rocket out of your vagina and quickly put in toilet paper, roll and get to wastebasket without creating a murder scene? No worries. I was fine afterwards, and the guys on set were actually really helpful when they realized I was having a breakdown. I've watched a few episodes since, but I still feel like it's a risky idea to put someone in that kind of situation. I can't be the only person who's tried to defend myself. I didn't think about asking at the time, but I'm sure there have been others who have done the same. I used to work in a used bookstore as well and can confirm this. Some of them would show up every Saturday with their plastic bag full of lady smut, reeking of cigarette smoke, and eager to find out just what happened in the latest installment of Kidnapped by the Sheik. They all had their favorite genres, and I thus got to inadvertently know way too much about the kinks of my regulars. I miss those old housewives and can only hope that my wife-to-be will still get that horned up about something in our golden years. Since you seem interested, I'll deliver. Being chased by chickens scared the crap out of me. I'm afraid they'll chase me again. When I was at a park one night with a friend, we passed a few ducks. I stopped because one was approaching me. It got closer and closer but wouldn't stop. He was bobbing his head like / right at me. I asked, "What's it doing?" As I backed away. My friend said, "I think he's attacking." I ran. It followed. It took few minutes for me to calm down and we had to walk around the duck to get back to the car. Another time I was at the lake and birds kept getting closer and closer to me. I ran away and they followed. TLDR, birds chase me. Interesting. Got chased by a goose once. They seem so non-threatening until they go into attack mode and suddenly they're running at you with their head down with crazy eyes, mouths agape going HRNK. This is barely relevant, but when I was about 12 or so, I got to pet a house cougar. Not a euphemistic cougar, but an actual fucking mountain lion. They are beautiful and bowel-quiveringly terrifying. Did not get eaten, 1/10, would absolutely do again. I first read that as I got a pet cougar, at which point I double-taked at how nonchalant you were about it. I totally want to ride, not a euphemism, a lion one day. Maybe I can get you a cougar so that we can ride off into the sunset only to get ripped to shreds moments later. You in? That's just it. Simply because your system hasn't acted up, doesn't mean it never will. You were also under the false sense that all other systems work as yours does. Truth is they can differ from house to house, town to town, and so on, as witnessed at your BFs. In your case you weren't taught any different. Now that you're aware, I'm hoping you no longer do this, not even at mom's. Where on earth did you go to get period 101? I spent the first 2 years of getting my period thinking that a tampon was the size and shape of a Mentos tablet that you just stuffed up there and, I don't know, pushed out when it was full of blood. They separated the boys and the girls for one afternoon of changes in adolescence class in the 5th grade to tell us about periods and such like, and all I learned about tampons is that a tampon is worn inside the body. No pictures. No diagrams. No definition of what a tampon was or how it worked or anything. First time I wanted to go swimming on my period, I opened up the box and was hella surprised to find this cylinder with a string coming out the end. Nothing about not flushing, either. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.